Story of four talented men going to China. Once upon a time there was a poor couple without children. The couple prayed from temple to temple until they finally gave birth to a son. He grew up as the blows. But the older he got, the more ferociously he ate. In that pan, he cooked as much as he wanted. The couple tried to work hard to raise their child but could not. If there was anything worth money in the house, they sold it all to relieve their child and number 39's stomach. After that, the couple thought the only way was to let their child go to another place to find food to avoid suffering because of him. One day, the father called his son back and said, "Now you have grown up, but your parents are so weak that they cannot do anything to raise you. In the past, when our family was still well off, there was a Chinese emperor who borrowed 700,000 taels of gold and silver. Now I and number 39 am trying to go over there and ask for it to eat." Hearing that, the son obeyed and left immediately. He kept walking along the coast towards the north. One day, going to a certain country, he suddenly saw a giant slapping the sea. The guy approached and asked, "What are you doing?" The giant replied, "I drained the sea to find gold and gems down there." "How can you exhaust your strength alone? I have health that no one can match. Just try carrying my bucket again." But the giant was surprised that he could even lift his dandruff, so he invited him home to become brothers. The guy then invited, "Please follow me to collect the debt of the Chinese king and get the money to eat and spend right away. But like slapping the sea, wait until I return and we will continue." The giant listened and left together. One day, they went to a mountain. Seeing a young man sitting on a large rock looking leisurely, the two approached and asked him why he was sitting there. He replied, "I sit here and occasionally blow a breath to knock down trees and bring them back to use as firewood." Hearing that it was strange, the two told him to try it. Sure enough, as soon as he puffed his cheeks and blew out a breath, the trees in front of him suddenly collapsed as if hit by a heavy storm. The two people told him, "If you have such talent, why Don and number 39 you go around the world and become famous, instead of living in this corner of the forest? Stop. Please come with us to collect the debt of the Chinese king. It looks even more interesting than here." The guy immediately agreed. Then they all set off together. 10 days later, they came to another forest. Seeing a tall man coming out of the deep forest, carrying a pair of elephants on his shoulders, walking like flying. They were all amazed and quickly called back and asked, "Where are you carrying the elephant? Every day I go into the forest to find elephants to catch. If you catch any animal, tie its leg and carry it back to wash the meat and take 1 or 2 ivory sticks to sell for money." They all said, "Stop. With health like that, why bother working so hard in the forest? Come with us to collect debt from the Chinese king and share the food." Hearing that, the satisfied guy quickly left the elephant behind and said, "Yes. Then go." Arriving at the Chinese capital, the 4 men went to the royal palace. A group of guards guarding the gate stopped them from entering. They all got angry and said, "We came here to collect debt, not to play, so we won and number 39 let them in." And they tried to beat them up, but the strong man stopped them and wrote a letter to collect the debt, telling the soldier to bring it to the king. After reading it, the Chinese emperor was surprised and immediately sent a courtier to see who could be so bold. The courtier went out for a moment, then came back and said, "There are 4 deformed people from the country of Annam. Each of them is determined to collect his debt before returning." They tried to attack the soldiers. The emperor heard that he was not happy, but he also ordered a nice banquet before meeting them. The 4 men were invited to a private room to eat and rest for a few days. But they ate and drank so much that on the 3rd day the officials in charge of the palace had to come in and tell the king that the emperor and number 39's food store was half empty due to entertaining the 4 strangers. The emperor was startled when he heard this and quickly told his ministers to find a way to harm them so as not to bother them. People were ordered to invite 4 men to take a boat to the lake and sink them all to drown. Sure enough, the 4 brothers unexpectedly fell into the scam and sank into the water. But in the midst of danger, the giant grabbed the boat like a bucket and slapped it. In just a moment, the bottom of the lake dried up, saving the other 3 people from drowning. Seeing that they were living peacefully, the emperor was angry, quickly ordered a banquet to be prepared, and then waited until they were full before sending several troops to rush in and besiege them. That day, the 4 guys accidentally got together and made enemies without suspecting anything. Suddenly there was a loud shout and the ambush soldiers rushed out like ants. They all tried to run away, but the strong blower stopped them and said, "Leave it alone. Let them wander for a while." Having said that, puffing his cheeks and blowing a few breaths, the soldiers could not bear the force of the wind and flew away like dry leaves. Then, in here, the 4 guys still sat comfortably, drinking and drinking until the party was over. This time the Chinese emperor was extremely worried. The king summoned secret officials to discuss how to deal with the situation. But everyone advised the king to return the coffin to smooth matters over. The king said, 70,000 taels is too much. Do you have any way to reduce them? An official reported, Your Majesty is willing to pay, but force the subjects, boats and vehicles, no one throughout the country to carry them for hire, and force them not to be transported more than once. Thus, even with the strength of Hang Vu, he could only carry out about a few hundred pounds before running out of water. The king agreed that way. On the day of receiving the gold and silver, people saw the guy alone carrying an elephant carrying 2 large baskets into the warehouse. They did not expect that just one person could carry 700,000 taels. The officials in charge of the warehouse did not know what to do, so they had to weigh it with scales, completely emptying the treasury. Having received their reward, the 4 men bowed to the emperor and leisurely walked out of the palace. Returning home, they divided and spent happily for the rest of their lives. Source: compiled. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.